on a tiny rock in the Atlantic Ocean, the DFID Atlantic Office, on the island of Iona, which is a really small island in the Inner Hebrides. It's 3 miles long and 1 mile wide, and it's 2 ferries away from the mainland, so it's beside the bigger island of Mull. And it's 7 hours from Glasgow. So to get to Glasgow, you take a small ferry and then a bus across Mull, and then a big ferry to Oban, and then a train down to Glasgow, and then onward from there to London. So what am I doing here? I am cyber crofting. I'm working as a senior advisor in policy division. 3 weeks approximately of the month I work from the island of Iona, from the Hebrides, and about 1 week a month I'm in London. Travel down, and I'm in the Whitehall office and occasionally in Abercrombie House as well. I lead on a range of fast-moving policy agendas, including human rights and various aspects of governance, working with ministers and other bits of Whitehall. I manage a team of really high-performing and prolific advisors who are in 3 other locations, so we're spread across 4 locations. Very high-performing group, and a programme manager as well. So why did I want to change my working arrangements so radically? There was a tiny window of opportunity. I've had a long connection with this island, and I built a house here, and there's this small period during which my children can go to the local primary school. After that, it's very problematic to live here because there's no secondary school. And it was just an amazing opportunity to be able to come in this time. And it was really clear to me, and amazingly to my head of department, that I could deliver my job without difficulty from this place. Well, 2 areas of lessons really. One is that you can do as much as corporately high profile, as strategic, as complex, fast-moving, as much for ministers from a different location as you can in London. So I think I've really been able to show that. I think the assumption before was that you had to be doing a very technical job in a cupboard, and that's just not the case, that you can do very much the same job and location doesn't affect that very much at all. The other thing is that in some ways that have surprised me, it's made me better at my job, and I definitely feel that I'm a better manager and a better communicator. And in London I think I had the illusion of communicating, because you're sitting around and seeing people, you think that you're communicating with them. But being here, I have to be very, very conscious and intentional about my communication and about my management. And I think that's really strengthened management relationships. I was a bit of a one-to-one skipper before, and now I hold one-to-ones. I make sure they happen. I know exactly what's going on with the people I manage, and that's just really critical to the arrangement. So I was trying to do 2 things when I first came here. One was to work remotely, and the other was to reduce hours. And the remote working I've really found really straightforward, because it's just so core to what we do anyway. And the part-time working I find much, much more difficult. It's been much harder to try and reduce my hours, much, much more challenging. And that's why it's really important now HR is doing more to try and make job shares work. So having those kind of systems that make part-time working more manageable and encouraging managers to support and manage that well is really, really important. People have been really, really positive. I've been really surprised. The management has been really supportive. I got director support for doing this. My head of department has been amazingly supportive, and people I manage have been extremely supportive and positive, partly because everybody is benefiting from flexibility, so everybody wants to make it work. And I've really noticed other people, other colleagues across the board have been really positive about it as well. And I think that's because they see this as expanding options and opportunities for them, which is unlikely to be living in the Hebrides, but it may be something different. And also I've really noticed a lot of people saying how important it is the demonstration effect of just seeing me doing it, and seeing me claiming my space in a meeting down the phone, and seeing someone at quite a senior level doing that, is quite supportive for others, and just really shows that it works. So in other parts of Whitehall, this is much more normal than maybe it is in DFID. When we did our big review of my working arrangement, the SCS colleague in the Foreign Office was saying, this is just completely normal for us. We're really used to managing for performance and not for presence. So she has had somebody working from Peru for 7 months, 2 people working in Wales, somebody working from Somerset, and in her London team that's a completely normal way of working, and they just are very conscious that they have to manage things differently. So there's growing evidence that flexibility brings a lot of benefits, not just to individuals but to the business as well. There's much more provision of flexibility, that's definitely on the increase, and there's much more recognition of the benefits to the business of flexibility, and really significant in that is attracting and retaining talent. The generation coming into the workforce now want different work-life balance and want more flexibility, and it's also a way of maximising talent, making sure that people are working to their full potential while they're in the organisation. Well, the real challenges have been the things that I think I won't have any control over. So the acts of God, basically, and there are plenty of those in the Hebrides. So like a lot of the UK, we've just had an insane winter. So many people have said it's been the worst winter they've ever experienced. So power cuts, there have been a lot of power cuts, but very quickly I had an answer to that. We've got a suitcase generator and that works perfectly well. So at one point Abercrombie House was very disrupted. The wind was blowing in the windows, and my husband and I were both working happily on our suitcase generator, so we can cope with the power cuts. Another was broadband. Had never been a problem. Broadband then was very problematic over a short period at Christmas, but again there's an answer to that. We get a satellite link up, so you've got a backup if broadband doesn't work. Another one is the ferries, just transport, being able to get on and off, and ferries are more disrupted now than they used to be because captains are made liable for any accidents. Yeah, people suggested a lot of things, or assumed a lot of things would be very difficult, like networks would be very difficult to maintain, which is not the case. You're very conscious of what you need to do your job. More so, I'm more conscious than I was in London, and so you consciously build up and maintain the things that you need to do your job. Or people said it's very difficult to join big meetings remotely. I mean, if that's the way you have to work, then it just isn't. You just talk down the phone and claim your space in big meetings. A really critical question with any kind of flexibility is, how does it impact on your career advancement? For me personally, in terms of, does this working arrangement mean that I am more limited in the kind of work I do and the skills I develop? Absolutely not at all. And what I've really been able to show, I think, is that you can work in a high profile, fast moving, corporate, high priority, ministerially engaged way across a whole range of agendas and be very entirely unaffected by where you're located. It's really important for senior managers to support flexibility, and they are really supportive. HR and I have done some work with the leadership group, incredibly positive meeting and response. And as a lot of the barriers, as the evidence is showing, a lot of the barriers are not about policy, they're about culture and about assumptions of problems. That changing that culture is really, really important, and challenging managers to be open and to think about and try out different ways of working, because I think what this experience has shown is it's not only as good as the norm, but can bring unexpected benefits as well.